let me welcome Hannah, who is giving her speech today called The Organic Relationship Between Practical Effects and Acting.
Good afternoon, everyone. So what I'm talking about today is organic relationship between practical effects and acting. Now, obviously I'm talking about film in this aspect, just going to clean it up, but I want to talk about specifically what practical effects are, because the last time I did the speech was not very clear. So today, practical effects are physical effects that special effects people either model or using animatronics or something to present some sort of monster or death scene, explosion, something like that, and as opposed to like CGI, which is computer graphics and everything's done on a computer. So, and this is something I'm interested in specifically. This is why I'm talking about practical effects a lot, because eventually I would like to have a career in it. It's important to me for other people to know that it is something that should be in more films. Specifically today, I want to talk about actors and how actors react to an actual puppet of some sort, rather than a tennis ball, which is often, I say tennis ball here because in CGI they often use that as a marker, so they have to talk to something like that. So this brings on an introduction of a story that I heard about The Hobbit, which is specifically about Ian McKellen, who played Gandalf in The Hobbit. In the Lord of the Rings movies, he was interacting with people that were dressed up, and there was a lot more relied on in practical effects, but in the new Hobbit movie, it was almost all CGI. And there was a specific scene where he was talking to the dwarves, but because he's larger than all the dwarves are, he had to talk to lights in like a picture of the dwarves and lights that would light on for each dwarf. So he was acting, but he couldn't talk to the actual people that were playing the dwarves, which literally brought him to tears. And he couldn't get any emotion out of it, which is, he's a really old actor, he's old school, he knows that's generally how he acts. So, what I'd like to talk about is the importance and give examples on practical effects and how actors are able to play on both organic fear and organic wonder when it comes to horror films, sci-fi films, and fantasy. There are two examples that I have for today. And first I'd like to start in the horror department, which is generally the easiest, because monsters today are, especially like monster films, like the film Alien, which I'll talk about, you have an alien that has to be developed, and you could put it in CGI, but the whole point of this horror film is that the actors are terrified, so you're just as terrified of seeing this monster. You can only fake so much terror. So I wanted to point exactly to one scene that completely takes out this terror and actually surprise. It actually starts. One of the scientists went out and he got the face hugger. I think you've probably seen it. The thing that like comes on his face, and then it finally breaks off and goes away, and eventually he wakes up. So he's awake. He's like eating, and they're all like, "Man, we're glad you're okay." And they're all sitting around the table until he's like, "Oh man, I feel really sick." And then it ends up he's like convulsing. They have to put him on the table. They're trying to hold him down, and then an alien just bursts out of his chest. And the importance of the scene is obviously it's all practical effects, but specifically the actors, they did not tell the actors that was going to happen. So the terror on all those people, of all the actors that were there is real terror. I think at some point the person who played Lambert screams really loud and everyone just jumps back. And that is really important because this is a pivotal scene. It's really intense. It's just like a complete surprise. You thought he was okay. It was a total fake out. And all the actors are just as scared as you are because they weren't told. So you're able to get an organic example or organic terror, which also scares the audience. The second example I'd like to talk about is Jurassic World, which is the recent movie that came out this year. And specifically, it is mainly used CGI, but they also relied a lot on robotics and puppets, like they did in Jurassic Park. They wanted to keep it that way to make it more realistic. So there's a specific scene in that film where the two main characters are looking for both Claire's main female character, two nephews, and there's an autonomous wreck, a huge, bad, large dinosaur that's chasing around, and they come upon this field, and there's all these dead Apatauruses, which they're like Brontosaurus, but they're smaller. And there's a specific scene where there's an Apatosaurus laying on the ground and he's dying. So they go to him and they react to him, and then he dies, and it's just like you can see the dinosaur feel pain, and then like everyone cries, and this is a pivotal scene for Claire because she's learning that the dinosaurs are real animals, not just numbers on the chart. It's a very emotional scene. So in order to do that, that was not CGI at all. The neck part of it was completely built with robotics, and all even like the skin was mastered in the shop. The emotions, the tear, the eyes, the movement of the mouth and everything. So it looked real, and because of that, the actors were able to think, oh my gosh, this dinosaur is dying. And they were able to have emotional impact because of that. So because of these scenes, from horror to emotional to general just like wonderment of seeing something to act with, or even just maybe having your actors in the same room as you, actors are able to put out more, and they're able to keep the integrity of the film. And and then essentially build a world where we both believe it, but as much as they believe it, because they are physically seeing it rather than staring at it as well. Thank you.